Hello, ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities, and identities. Welcome back to another series review. And today's review is Series 1 and Series 2 of HelluvaBoss. So, what is HelluvaBoss about? Well, essentially, it's about a group of people who are hired to kill people in the real world who have done terrible things. Or at least that is what they attempt to do. So let's introduce you to the group. We have Blitzo, or Blitz as he likes to be called. We have Millie. We have Luna. And we have Moxie and Stolas. Now, as the series progresses, we slowly start to get a rough idea of the backstory of all of these characters. And the one awesome and magnificent thing behind all of them, they're all misfits with backgrounds that some may judge based on how they go about their lives. But personally, I admire and can kind of relate to. Maybe not on the level, but I can relate to the idea of necessarily not being the ideal person. So let's give you a rough rundown of all their backstories. Luna is a wolf breed that was essentially a dog that kind of gets left on the shelf. She ends up in a dog home and Blitz adopts her as his very own daughter because she doesn't have any family. Blitz is put in Stolas's debt when Stolas goes to the circus as a child, and as demon royalty, Stolas is obsessed with Blitzo and becomes very good friends, and eventually a little bit more than friends. Sorry, I'm sidetracking. Moxie and Millie. Moxie is the son of a very wealthy gangster who essentially doesn't accept him for his bisexuality and pretty much outcasts him from the family unless he keeps screwing around with all of the bodyguards and such, just because he thinks it's the only way to accept him. Millie is a bounty hunter who pretty much kind of is just always looking for work. She is misunderstood as well in many ways and has always grown up on a ranch. She feels like the outsider, except when her trans sister is around. She feels like she's the only one she can kind of go to and speak to and will be understood and will listen. Millie often comes across as the hard badass of the team, but she does have her vulnerable moments, and rightfully so. She's a character who could absolutely line the floor with heads, but deep down inside, she has a heart of gold. Stolas, as we previously mentioned, is royalty, who also happens to have a very complicated relationship with their child. This is all just because of a love affair with Blitz, and it's also kind of technically to do with the arranged marriage that Stolas was given as a child. Stolas tries to explain to his own daughter that the whole reason that their relationship is messed up isn't purely just because Stolas is in love with a man, but also comes down to the fact that Stella, who is his very wicked ex, pretty much just married him for his money, his wealth, and the fact that he's a demon royal. So to make it up to his daughter, he decides to take them to Lululand. But his daughter's not quite there with the whole Lululand and essentially goes off. Some other characters we should let you know about. Ozzy and Fitzurali. Who are they, you may be asking? Well, Fitzurali is a clown who used to be friends with Blitz, and eventually their friendship gets reconciled over a whole kind of kidnapping situation. Um, Fitzgerald became a very famous clown after pretty much getting a gig with this top clown who was kind of the top in the circus at the time, selling sex toys, you name it, stuff like that. Fitzgerald falls in love with Ozzy, who is the god of lust. The pair of them have an absolutely amazing relationship and are constantly trying to support one another when things are down. Now, alongside all these characters, Blitz has one massive rival who they cannot stand, and that is Stryker, a cowboy looking western man who essentially tries to kidnap Stolas just so that he can get back at Blitz. Alongside this, we have many back and forth between Blitzo and Stolas, as Stolas doesn't quite realise what Blitz is using the magical book for. Blitz has been using it so that his whole agency can pop in and out of Earth and stop people from essentially being cunts. An example of this comes in the first episode when a woman catches her husband cheating on their anniversary and Blitz and his gang go down to Earth to try and take her out. But due to their failure the first time, it turns out that they've all had a family and the cheater pretty much almost gets rewarded for it. However, eventually manage to take down the family. Well, more to the point, they take down the cheater and she is damned for damnation and such. However, later down the line, even though Blitz has been doing all of this heroicness, it turns out that the chips come to bite him back on the arse, as the King of Hell himself decides to make a kind of declaration against Blitz and claims that he has broken all of Hell's natural laws. One being the divine intervention with human history, and the other by using a book that doesn't belong to him. This almost causes Blitz to get the chop and lose his head. Luckily, Stolas jumps in the fray and pretty much starts saying that he was in control of the plan the whole time. Stolas claims as demon royalty that he takes full responsibility for the events that have happened, and he will take Blitz's punishment if it comes down to it. Demon royalty and the kings and things of hell decide to come to an amnesty as they can't charge one of their own, so the closest punishment he can get is to be stripped of all of his titles and essentially be broke. Stolas reconciles with this, but at the same time remembers the fact that he's with the man he loves. Now, going back through the series, we have some very funny moments. One of my favourite funny moments in HelluvaBoss has got to be the fact when Blitz and Moxie get captured by a bunch of human FBI agents who are confused exactly to what these demons are and where they came from. Moxie and Blitzo joke about the fact that if they do too much punishment, the demons might enjoy it. And so they joke and joke and joke until Millie and Luna turn up to kick everyone's asses. Luna also has some very impactful moments throughout this series, not only for being the adoptive daughter of Blitz, but also because she has some reconcile, one with people that she likes, and exploring herself as she goes to develop herself throughout the whole series. And she also has a very stunning moment in which she goes up to a guy who says that he essentially is just there to support the children in the orphanage, yet he is under investigation by the HelluvaBoss crew for potentially being a paedophile. Luna tries to reveal her true self to him after the fact that she is not really a human woman, and after this he screams his head off and gets killed anyway. Another turning point in the series is when Moxie tries to help a young boy gangster overthrow his father, But rather than him coming out with the same outcome as Moxie did, turns out this boy gangster just was going for a power grab. Putting his father out of the way would make it easier for him to claim the business. There's a constant joke back and forth between the group that Millie pegs Moxie. Now, if you don't know what pegging is, just look it up. So overall, this is a very great series with some very heartfelt meanings behind all of its storytelling. And the reason I love this series so much is just the fact that all of the characters are so relatable. You have the queer icon, the brilliance behind him accepting himself and being outlandish no matter what anyone thinks, Blitz. You have the other queer in the character who is very reserved and is often questioning himself, but also trying to stay strong to who he is and his relationship with his girlfriend, Moxie. You have Millie, a character who is a headstrong and doesn't care about what anyone thinks, but she cares most importantly about what her boyfriend thinks and also about what her friends think. She often comes across as this person who is living in her own world and can handle herself, but most of the time she sometimes does need to fall back on the people that love her most. Luna, a headstrong character who is always biting her own father's head off, but at the same time secretly loves him in her own way. Stolas, a character who is born into royalty, riches, and everything he could ever want, stripped away of all that title, and now has to adapt to life as a civilian. All of these characters come together to form the great HelluvaBoss team we know. We also have Ozzy on the side and Fitzgerald, two characters who at first feel worried that they may be blackmailed for their sexuality in hell, but once they overcome that hurdle, they start to be proud and out to people about the truth behind their relationship. And no matter whether the world is ready to accept them or not, these characters are willing to live in the world that they live in. Overall, the story arcs of all these characters and the backstory of every single one of them is so beautiful. And most importantly, I just had to make a very honourable mention in this. Brandon Rogers, the actor who plays Katie Killjoy and also plays Blitz. I feel like you absolutely sell me on both of these series, and you sell me especially on Blitz because of this idea that you're out, you're proud, you don't care, and yet it comes across so brilliantly in your characters. And the way that you stronghold the cast alongside you and bring them up to the light, I feel like is what makes so many people feel seen. And makes me feel seen, honestly. And for that reason, I give this show a solid 10 out of 10. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next series review. Until then, goodbye, stay beautiful, and have an incredible night.